Good morning, colleagues. It's Patrick Ric-Hansen. I'm going to take you through the recent Informate changes, which were as a result of my visit to the land boards and the DSM last year in November. The changes are divided into two sections: software issues and requirements. This is where we needed to make changes to Informate to accommodate new requirements or resolve software issues, and then also operational user issues, which is where the users were not quite sure how to use the software correctly. So the previous slide showed the changes that were required to the software, and this slide shows the operational issues. I'm going to go through each of these issues and changes and provide a video to show what we've done to resolve these particular issues. The first one is corrupt projects or integrity errors. I'm sure most of you have had a situation where when using a project and when you open it, it comes up with integrity errors. I'm going to open a project that has such a problem. And you can see it comes up with these line table integrity errors and polygon table integrity errors. Now, in order to resolve this problem, we've modified the repair tables option, which I'm going to use now. So you just accept these, you say yes to all the prompts, and then you just let it do its work. So this process may take quite some time, but as you can see now, the project has been cleaned, and we're going to reopen it and show you that these errors have been removed. So I'm going to close the project and then reopen it. And you will notice that the integrity errors have been removed. The next option is computing layouts from information provided by the Department of Town and Regional Planning. And I am going to create a separate video for this because it's quite involved. The next option is to be able to group consistencies by page number. Now, you'll recall that in the past we added a field called sheet in the polygon table, and that attribute was populated so that you could divide the general plan into sheets. So you can see here in the graphics view, each sheet is colored in a different way. Now, to accommodate the requirement to print consistencies by sheet number, we've added a sheet field, as you can see here, in the calculation results table. So if you've already produced your consistencies, what you need to do is you need to go to this bottom grid here, and you need to filter on consistencies, and there are no consistencies here, so it doesn't come up. We only have comparisons, field book, double polar, and orientation. If we had consistencies, they would come up. We could then filter on them. We could then select them all and then delete them all, because we have to reproduce them now. So the next thing we need to do is to select all the polygons and then go to the cadastral toolbar and choose the option to auto-generate consistencies. So we choose output all, and it will then produce consistencies in the consistency printout in the calculation printout window. So this process may take a while, but before you do it, just make sure that you have enabled consistency output to calculation window over here. Otherwise, you'll end up with nothing in the calculation results table. So if we look in the calculation results table, we will see all these consistencies here. We now go to the printout of the consistencies, and we choose consistency and consistency check and click OK. Start with page 1. You will see here at the top of the calculation report, you'll see the sheet number that relates to the consistencies. So it grouped them by sheet number. Next option relates to the setting to outline polygons. Previously, when you created an Informate project, this option here was not enabled. So if you had polygons in a project, they would not be displayed, even though you can turn the polygons on or off. So we've changed that so that by default, the polygons are outlined, and it just makes it a bit more logical. Next option relates to exporting a selection of features to create a new project. You will notice in this toolbar here, we originally had two options: select all points incident with the currently selected lines and select all points incident with the currently selected polygons. So if you wanted to export a selection of features, you had to then select the lines and then select the polygons and select the points and then select the polygons and the associated points. We've added an additional two options here. So if you want to just take a selection of your project, for example, I want to take just these points and polygons. I select all the points. I then click this option, which will in turn select all the lines, and this option here, which will select all the polygons. In this particular case, I don't have any lines, but if I had lines, it would select them as well. You can then export that project using File, Save Project As, and that will be the basis of your new project. The next requirement is the trilateration calculation. If you recall previously, you were not able to produce calculation results from a trilateration because it was part of the geometric toolbar. We've now moved it to the survey toolbar. So it's at the end of the survey toolbar. So for example, if we select it and then we choose a point here and a point there, and we give it a distance of 150, and this one say 125, and then we say want to calculate that point there. When we click calculate, it will now move that calculation, or sorry, it will output that calculation to the calculation results window. There it is over there. So when you print your calculation results, you'll have the trilateration as well. The next requirement is to produce what we've incorrectly called a sketch map. We're going to change it to a locality map. It's very similar to a locality sketch, except that it has less information on it. So I'm going to choose sketch map. You can fill this information in similar to a locality sketch, and then it will produce a map like that. In the survey of ranches and fields, if a distance is greater than 1,000 meters, the direction should be rounded to 1 second. So what I have done in this project, I have first calculated the directions and distances to be 0. I'm now going to use utilities and the option direction and distance. And now this option doesn't rely on a selection set, so it'll work on the entire table. And you can see here we've added a distance threshold, which is set to 1,000 meters. So if we calculate, we click OK, it will then calculate the directions and distances to the settings that were provided there. We can see that the directions and distances have been calculated. So the next thing I'm going to do is to set a distance filter to distances that are less than 1,000 meters. And then if we have a look here, we will see that the directions have been calculated to 20 seconds. I'm now going to change that and make the distances greater than 1,000 meters. So if we have a look here, we can see this direction here, which is calculated to 1 second. Let's look at the next one. Okay, this one happens to be right. It's 30 minutes, but that's what it is. And this one here we can see has been calculated to 1 second. The next requirement is to change the way we calculate the area of a plot, and it needs to round down if the first digit is a 4, the first digit after the decimal point is a 4, and round it up if it's a 5 or greater. So I've created a dummy project, and the top one has an area of 258.49, which should round down. The bottom one has an area of 258.5, which should round up. So I'm going to get rid of these areas here. And I'm going to go to Utilities, and I'm going to choose Polygon Areas. And to start with, I'll just use 2 decimal places. And you can see here, you can see what the area calculates to at 2 decimal places. If we now go back and calculate those areas to 0 decimal places, you can see that the area of the top polygon is rounded down to 258, and the area of the bottom polygon is rounded to 259, which is as per the DSM requirement. The next requirement relates to a network license manager, and this was requested by the Department of Surveys and Mapping because they want to be able to implement it for surveyors that go out into the field. If any of the land boards wish to implement it, they're welcome to do so because it has been completed. The next requirement was for projects with multiple allo systems. Now, we haven't done this yet. It's something that we're going to look at in the future, but it is quite a complicated requirement, and we're going to have a look into it, and we'll report back to the land boards as to what our schedule is for completing it. The next requirement is to produce a frame diagram, which is used, we understand, in support of the land registration process. The whole intention of this is to be able to produce a diagram with minimum user intervention and without having to go into CAD and to finalize it. In certain cases where it's very complicated, it still would be necessary to do that. Now, in conjunction with this option, we've expanded the information in the project under General, Setup and Project. You can see here that there are additional attributes that are common to all the plots in the file. So, for example, the general plan number, survey record number, DSM file, etc. Those things are common to all the plots that would be used to produce the frame diagram. So what we do is we select frame diagram, click on the plot, and then it will produce a template. So we say yes, and all the information from the setup file is now placed in here. We still have a chance to edit it if required, and once we're happy, we click OK. Now we then get the printout definition, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Now, what we've done here is we've provided the facility where you can move information around. So, for example, up top here, we can see Earth 950. So if we go there and we move it down, we're able to position it in the right place. Earth 951, we're able to move that down. Then also the coordinate text, I think it's this one. No, it's not. Yeah, it's the cadastral layer. So we're then able to move these beacon labels and put them where we want, like that. Then we could add text to it, to the layer. So for example, if we needed to add some text to the diagram, we can then select this option up here and put the cursor there. And let's say it's road 15 meters. We make it in the middle, click OK, and then we've got road 15 meters. With that, we are then able to directly print this diagram. It's probably not finalized, but there's not much to do here. But when it's finalized, you can set up your printer and then just print it. Or alternatively, if it's a complicated one, you can use this option here to export it to DXF and do the final touch-ups in DXF in MicroStation or AutoCAD. The last requirement relates to problems when you try to produce a locality sketch. And I'll show you how that problem manifests. I've selected this particular property here, and it's the one that you can see. And then if I go to locality sketch selected, and then I produce a locality sketch, you can see that it is not what we're looking for. It's got nothing in there. So there's a problem there. So just to explain why this happens, the locality sketch routine uses shapefiles in order to do the drawing, because shapefiles is a better environment, or the GIS is a better environment to be able to produce a map or a locality sketch. So what Informate does is once you've selected the locality sketch, the first time that you do that, it creates shapefiles, which it puts in a subdirectory off your project directory. So if you then modify the project, and let's say you add an additional plot or plots, and then you try to do a shapefile, a locality sketch of one of those new plots, it's not going to find it in the shapefile. So what you have to do is you have to choose this option here and replace the shapefiles. So that will go through the process of rebuilding them and putting them in that subdirectory off the project directory. So now they're done. Now we're going to go back to locality sketch selected. And this time it should find the plot in the shapefile, and you can see that it's produced a locality sketch as we require. So it remains for me to say thank you, and the operational issues will be sent to you in a separate video. Thanks for your attendance.